and I will fight to get by any other way, and I will fight. I got you and I gotta say, I will fight, fight for you. I will fight, fight.
What's up YouTube, Crazy K for bringing another video. I've got the I'm just using the gauss sniper rifle today, but as you can tell by the title, like the main sort of thing of this video is going to be some big news regarding the Crysis series. Now, I'm just using low profile, wet and pro and retriever for the gauss to get some pretty funny no scopes and some pretty funny fails anyway, so I hope you enjoyed the gameplay anyway. But yeah, the other day I learned, like on Amazon.co, well, Amazon, now they're a company that have been wanting to get into the gaming industry for a while now. I mean, you can see that from the you know, from the Fire TV that's came out, you know, which is basically turns your telly into a smart telly, but you know, obviously it's a little bit limited compared to that, but you know, so it turns it into a smart TV with Android apps and, you know, stuff like that. But they have they've just closed a £70 million licensing deal with Crytek. Now, what does that mean for the company? Well, basically Crytek, as we all know, like if you've been following, like, you know, wondering if there's a Crysis 4 coming or, you know, anything like that, then you would have been scouring the internet and, you know, you would have been looking at stuff like that anyway. But yeah, so what does this mean for the company? Well, basically, you know, their financial troubles at the moment are over now. I mean, a £70 million, you know, licensing deal is it's a fair chunk of money. You know what I mean? Like, they can do some things with that. Like, you know, I know they've got a couple of games working on at the moment, which should maybe get resurfaced. I mean, the Homefront 2 and, you know, stuff like that. But for me, at least, you know, the one thing I'm looking forward to is the next Crysis installment. Now, you know, obviously with the licensing deal, I'm not sure whether it's going to be. I mean, Crysis has always been like, every time a new game's come out, it's always been like the next sort of big PC benchmark, you know. So I'm not sure whether they're going to come up with their own console. I hope not. Like, I hope it's going to be multi-platform, you know, ideally PC and then ported out to the consoles instead of the other way around. You know, you don't want to see a console port. Like, although they can do extra things, you know, with porting, like if it's PC based, like it's always going to be the most immersive and the best sort of experience. So hopefully, you know, they would keep it to the Xbox One, sort of PS4 and the PC. You know, don't really want to see any more 360 or PS3s. Like, I understand that the people that can't quite, you know, can't really afford a next gen console yet or a PC yet, they would want to play the game, but in the end it hurts the end product, you know. So having to work for another two platforms, you know, it only harms the quality of the game, you know. And we've seen this in games, you know, like Watch Dogs, and, you know, we have seen this like lately, like with them, but they're starting to break away from it. Like, they are starting to drop support for the older platforms, but, you know, for the most part, you want it to be next gen only, you know. So next gen PC only, so you get the most, not only the best graphics, but also the best, you know, the best end result. You know, they got the time they need to work on the game and get it as polished as possible, which is something like obviously the Crysis series is known for. Like, okay, Crysis 1 was basically an awesome game. Like, there weren't really a lot of issues with that, but the Crysis 2 and Crysis 3, unless you're playing in a really good connection server, like you'll know if you've played the game. You know, you'll know it's quite a bullshit fest, really. Like, especially when lag comes into play. But, you know, which is, you know, let me know in the comments down below as well, guys, like what your outlines would be for like the next Crysis, or what you think they should remove from, you know, from the multiplayer. You know, I mean, for me personally, I think auto armor has a place, but I think once you hit a certain rank, you know, I think it should be, you know, banned from use. You know, I think it should really be like for new players only, because you do, you know, when I first jumped into this game, like, well, it was back in Crysis 2 days. When I first jumped into this game, I didn't know what the fuck to do. You know, armor. You know, you've got to learn timings, like as far as armor and cloak goes, but, or, you know, as far as knowing when to. Like, it's a very tactical game, this anyway. But, you know, so you know, you don't really want that. You know, auto armor has a place, and that was a sick no scope there. Like, I get a little bit amped and start shooting everything. I was happy with that no scope, but back to the news anyway. So yeah, you know, I personally, I'd like to see auto armor removed for, say, level 50 players. You know, once you hit that boundary, you know, you're gonna have to, you know, that should have been enough game time for you to be able to learn the game, and you know, if you're gonna stick at it, you know, you're gonna learn by then. So it doesn't take as long as people make out as well. Like, I still see these max reboots running around with auto armor on, but you know, each their own. Like, it's just, or if auto armor is in the game, like, there should be, you know, it's one of them things where if you've ever been, you know, if you've ever been on the receiving end of that perk, you'll know, like, it takes a lot more bullets to kill people. Like, I've had to shoot people sometimes 3 times with the gauss and then had to punch them to kill him. So, you know, it can get a little bit tedious sometimes. But another thing I'd like to see removed is, I'm all for the alien weapons. You know, I think they would actually benefit from having like alien weapons actually in a class. Like, you know, instead of picking out a gauss or a scarab or a scar, you know, you pick a pinch rifle, you know, and they make some more modifications to it, like, you know, scopes and, you know, fire modes and stuff like that. So that would be a good thing, like, in my eyes. Like, I think that would work quite well. You know, like, have alien loadouts and, you know, human loadouts, or, you know, just standard weapon loadouts. But I think the polls need to go, unless it's in like a certain server, like a fun server or something. Like, the polls for me, you know, in the early stages of this game and even today, like, they're bloody annoying to face against, really. You know, so yeah, something that I think needs to go. But you know, it's just so annoying to be on the receiving end of it. I'm glad they nerfed it to, you know, to begin with, like, or a couple of months into the game, because it was like, it did feel like an exploit. So, you know, you could run faster with a pole than you could with a pistol in the end. But no, I fell in the Bermuda Triangle there and got fucking destroyed. Like, I forgot I wasn't running maneuverability there, so it's all my fault, really. Idiot move. But you know, obviously things like cloak and that, like, with Crysis 2, like, you could run around fast cloaked, you know, and like, there was a lot of, you know, people normally cloaked, you know, so. But there was also the perk, you know, there was also the cloak revealer, or that's not what the perk was called, but, you know, cloak, or bloody visor enhancer, I think, or something like that was called, you know, which made the cloak glimmer a lot easier to see, you know. So if you're one of them people that didn't really like cloak, or had trouble seeing it, then, you know, there was a perk there to help that, you know, to help combat that. So, you know, cloak is something like, if you're in armor mode, like, you get slowed down, which is fair enough. Like, you know, you're running, your suit would be, you know, it makes sense that your movement speed would be slowed. But for cloak, you know, I think you should really move the same sort of speed as you normally do. You know, and in this gameplay, like I say, I'm not using maneuverability. Like, you can do without maneuverability, but I think for the most part, either bring back mobility enhance, which, you know, just gives you more energy, yeah, and that was nice play from that guy. But, you know, give me mobility enhance, so you got, you know, you can run about for longer, you know, or have a separate sprint gauge. Like, they've done the armor, the stealth gauge. Like, if they had a separate sprint gauge, like, to slow some people down, like, you know what I mean? It's pretty ridiculous sometimes. Like, I think movement speed is always something that should be normalised. You know, it's one of them things that it's such a big advantage to some players. You know, it's not really fair. Like, to start with, like, everyone should just basically, what I'm trying to say, everyone should basically just have the same movement speed across the board. So there's no, you know, there's room for more customization. But I also think at the same time, like, there should be a stealth, or, you know, a sprint power bar. You know, so you're not off your nut all the time. You know, you have to, you know, you have to keep an eye and bring back the energy management into the game, because that was a big. Okay, there's a slight amount of energy management in this game, but nowhere near compared to like Crysis 2. Like, Crysis 2, you really had to watch what you were doing and how much energy you had left and stuff. So, you know, another thing, like, I'd like to see the transfer come back. Like, okay, there's armor transfer, but at the same time, I think, you know, they should have like 3 perks and then a transfer module, like a bonus sort of transfer module. You know, you either choose armor, power, which is just your sprint, or your cloak, you know, stealth enhance, or, you know, for regen. Like, if you're a more aggressive player, you know, you're going to want to be running in there, sort of getting kills and then carrying on, which obviously sprint transfer, or whatever you power transfer, you know, whatever you would want to call it, you know, that would help with that. And then you got these more players that like being more stealthy, so, you know, obviously stealth enhance would come into it. Like, and that's another thing. Like, if you shoot at a cloak, you should always break the cloak. Like, always break the cloak. Like, it doesn't matter if you've got the predator bow or not. Like, the bow in the game, like, so much controversy around that gun. You know, it's very, very annoying to be on the receiving end of. You know, but at the same time, like that's the, not only is it the auto aim aspect or the lag aspect that happens with that weapon, there's also the fact that you can fire it from cloaked, and you know, you could just camp up somewhere low profile, sit on top of something with a bow and just snipe people away. But you know, obviously, if you're firing the bow, it should break your cloak. You know, so you're more revealed. You know, she can't just be, obviously cloak. The further you go out, obviously the harder it is to see the cloak anyway. So it can be very, very, very annoying to go up against. But you know, I'd just like to see the bow removed, basically. But yeah, let me know what you think, guys. You know, what would you like to see in the future Crysis title? You know, now that the opportunity of getting one is increased tenfold. So let me know, guys. I'm quite excited for it myself. So I'm quite excited to see what happens. But I hope you enjoyed the video, guys. If you did, drop us a like, comment on what you think, and I'll see you in the next one, guys. Take it easy.